And that is the thumbnail. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. I am so excited about today's video because I'm going to be bringing you guys along for a tomato harvest in the year of diversity. That's right, we got a bowl, we got clippers. It is long overdue to do a tomato harvest. So I'm really excited about this, and it's something that a lot of you guys have requested us to do. Everyone keeps messaging us and saying, when you start getting ripe tomatoes, please don't forget to bring us along to show us the different colors and shapes and sizes and names and backstories of all the different tomatoes you're growing. And I said, I won't forget, I promise, I won't forget. And people keep saying, Luke, you've got to be harvesting tomatoes by now. Have you forgotten? I said, no, I've not forgotten. We've just been really, really late to the season. We have had the coldest and wettest start to the year. It's been nice now, but May and June, our typical garden starting months, were unstartable. We didn't have tomatoes in the ground until like early June because it was so cold and so wet. We just said, heck with it. Let's just keep them indoors and risk, don't even risk them getting diseased and killed by frost and stuff like that, because it was just a terrible start to the year. So we're about a month behind schedule, and that's why some of the stuff is just starting to ripen up. A lot of the tomatoes we're going to show you today are kind of in the orange, yellow, and pink category. There'll still be some other colors as well that we have ripening up, but a lot of those other colors, reds and your blacks, or your kind of your burgundy colors, even your green tomatoes, a lot of those tend to ripen up a little bit later in the season. One of the things that it takes tomatoes to start ripening are really warm nights. A lot of people ask, what can I do to speed up my ripening process? And the answer is nothing. You can grow varieties that are a little more forgiving. Yellow varieties are the fastest to ripen because of that kind of temperature differential. They really don't need as warm of nights. Yellow and orange tomatoes, kind of in that yellow and orange spectrum of color, they really don't need anything more than about 60 to 65 degrees to start ripening. Whereas like a red or a burgundy color, anything that has a really red pigment to it, it requires warmer nights in the 70s to 75 degree range to start ripening up. So, that's just one of those things. You got to be patient, and you'll see kind of from the different stuff that we're harvesting that you can kind of tell how cold our nights have been based on the color of tomatoes we're harvesting. Because really, there's not a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot of red. So the first tomato we're going to harvest is the Gold Rush Currant. Now this tomato produces incredible trusses of flowers that are just the longest trusses of flowers I've ever seen. I mean, we're talking 1.5 feet, 2 feet long, just absolutely beautiful. And the tomatoes are a deep orange. One of the things you'll see with these tomatoes is that the thing I really love about them, I don't know if you can pick it up on camera or not, but the tomato itself is actually kind of see-through. You can see the veins on the inside of the tomato, and it's just a really unique, super deep orange tomato. One of the things to note about it too is that it does not like to come off with the flower, or I shouldn't say the flower, but the stem. A lot of them do not come off with the stem. So while it seems like a really cute and novel idea, you really have to tug on them a little bit to get the stem to come off. It's a nice little bite-sized snack too. Now we're going to stop here for a second at the Typhon Mennonite because I just want to highlight just how large these tomatoes are getting. Now these tomatoes here are easily pushing 2 pounds. This one right here is the largest tomato, and it's definitely going to be close to a 2-pounder. I mean, this thing is absolutely massive. I mean, I cannot wrap my hand around the whole thing, and it's still growing. It's still real hard. You can tell it's definitely not even close to being ripe. A lot of these are still rock hard, so they're really, really sizing up nice. The Typhon Mennonites are going to be giant. Now I want to get the next tomato, which you can kind of see. It's kind of tucked in here with all this foliage, and this is Rose. I'm so excited about this tomato because this is actually one I've really been looking forward to. Oh, what a beautiful tomato. Rose is actually a cross between a Rutgers tomato and a Brandywine. It was done to avoid the cracking issues that Brandywines have, and also give it the disease resistance and the heat tolerance that the Rutgers tomato have. Now, the Rutgers tomato is bred for southern climates. The Brandywine does not do well because it's a potato leaf. It does not do well in southern climates because it's very prone to blight. So you'll notice that the Rose tomato does have the very traditional Brandywine type potato leaves. However, the fruit itself is actually it's actually way more heat resistant, and it also still has the very classic Brandywine kind of pleating on the top of the tomato that you see and kind of come to know and love with the Brandywine tomatoes. Now, this is one I am just so excited about, and this is the Dr. Wyche's yellow beefsteak. Now, the thing about Dr. Wyche's is it is just one of the most beautiful tomatoes. It's just so bright out here that I really can't change the exposure a whole lot more. I apologize there. I was able to wait for a cloud to kind of cover the sun just a little bit to get some color back in so it's not so overexposed. But you can see, look at that, just beautiful. Oh, it's just, the yellow comes through, the orange comes through. It's just kind of like I said, an orange creamsicle color. It's a super sweet tomato, really low acid. Just absolutely love this tomato. Now, the next one just down the way is the Afghan Orange. Now, these are just absolutely beautiful tomatoes. They get a lot larger than this. These clusters are just a little on the small side, but they'll range about 4 to 8 ounces. This one's about maybe 2.5 ounces, so it's a little on the small side, like I said. But as you can see, they are definitely all misshapen. One of the things with the Afghan Orange is it is not known for its consistency in shape and size. It is known for its flavor. This tomato is one of the sweeter orange tomatoes I've ever tried. In fact, I would say it's probably up there, at least top 2 sweetest orange tomatoes. It is extremely sweet. It has notes of, if you've ever had a pineapple tomato, it has kind of fruity notes like a pineapple has. It has, it almost tastes kind of like citrusy a little bit. And it's got just enough acidity in it that it kind of has that kind of tartness that kind of a fruit has, but yet it's kind of more umami like a tomato has. So it's kind of got that savory sweetness going on. It's incredible, and I absolutely love that the very bottom of these Afghan Orange has kind of like a little orange starburst, not the candy, but like an actual kind of starburst that kind of explodes out from the bottom of the tomato. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Azochka. Now, Azochka is actually a Ukrainian tomato, and it was brought over to the US by Ukrainian immigrants, and it is actually known as peach tomato. Now, Azochka is about a 4 to 8 ounce tomato, another orange color. As you can see, orange is kind of the most common color of the day, but it produces beautiful clusters of like 6 to 8 tomatoes. They all ripen on the same cluster pretty much at the same time, which is great. I mean, if you're cutting this for like market and you want tomatoes on the vine, it's a great tomato for that. They don't ripen, there's another one here just starting to ripen. This one will follow, and they pretty much, if you can leave them on the vine, they pretty much all can ripen about in the same time. So that's really nice because it offers uniformity, which is great. All right, now we're here with one of the first red tomatoes to ripen up this year, the Crimson Sprinter. Now, this is not to be confused with the Giant Crimson. This tomato is actually earlier than the Giant Crimson, and that is the Crimson Sprinter. Now, the Crimson Sprinter, much like the Giant Crimson, if you guys have been following that saga, is actually it's known as a supermarket tomato. This tomato was bred for the purpose of basically being consistent, reliable, and able to get to market without being bruised or damaged. It was bred for a very, very firm skin. This tomato has an extremely firm skin to it. It is a beautiful red color, but it's most notable for its shelf life. This tomato has an extremely long shelf life in comparison to other heirloom tomatoes. The sugar content is really low in this, making it more of a, it's a ketchup tomato. It's a very acidic tomato that is kind of got that classic tomato bite to it, really lacking a lot of the sweetness, so that it's basically mostly just used for ketchup, soups, tomato paste, tomato sauce. It's got a lot of tomato flavor in it, but it is not your very sweet heirlooms. I really love this tomato because it is just a consistent producer. It produces tons of tomatoes. And we're talking on this plant, it is a determinate, so I could not prune this one. I did stake it up, but I could not prune this one like I pruned the rest of them. That's why I put it on the end cap here, because it's more of a bushing tomato, because again, it was bred for the farm. It's bred for mass production. Put them in rows, pick them with a mechanical harvester, and you know, put them up a conveyor belt, dump them into a truck. They don't bruise very easily. These things are awesome. And despite your opinions about this tomato after I've been explaining it, you might think, well, why the heck are you growing this tomato? This is actually an heirloom. This has been grown for over 60 years because this was one of the very first mechanized tomatoes. This has since been bred out, not out of existence, obviously, but this has since been just kind of chosen to be grown. There's other tomatoes that have chosen to be grown besides this tomato, because of just larger size, more consistent yields, disease resistance, and things like that. It's just a classic slicer tomato, and I love that because I love growing tomatoes that you know, might have been grown for a purpose that I don't necessarily agree with, but they have a history to them that allows them to still be notable and still be interesting. And this one is awesome. I absolutely love these. I actually have to freehand harvest this next one. This is the Pai Pai tomato, and the reason why is because it's so bright that if I leave the camera on the tripod, you won't even see this tomato. It's so overexposed. But I'll give you a good look at it. You can see beautiful clusters of nice, just deep red tomatoes. This is one of my most favorite tomatoes of the year so far, just for its shape, its consistency. It's just a stunning tomato all around. So what makes this tomato so remarkable is that this is an heirloom from Italy, and it's traditionally grown for making tomato sauce. Now, this tomato here is known to be grown in the Campari region of Italy. Now, the Campari region is a volcanic region of Italy that is known to produce some of the world's best tasting tomatoes. As you can see, just the sheer beauty and consistency of these tomatoes. Each one is right around 3 to 4 ounces. It is a plum type tomato, and I'll tell you what, I mean, if you could find a more beautiful tomato, I just don't think you could, honestly. I mean, this is just, it's everything that I like from a Roma. It's everything that I like from a San Marzano. It's everything that I like from a grape tomato. It is consistent. It's a beautiful producer. The flavor is hands down one of the best. We will hopefully be offering this in the store for 2020, for the seed selection for 2020. Again, the name is Pai Pai, P-A-I-P-A-I. And again, this comes from the Campari region of Italy. Now, the other thing to note about the Campari region is that because the soil is so volcanic, farmers will amend their soil with a lot of crushed oyster shells. And the crushed oyster shells helps to add a lot of calcium and balance the acidity from the volcanic rock. And so it produces a tomato that has one of the most balanced flavors in all the world. In fact, if you look for canned San Marzano tomatoes coming from the Campari region of Italy, they are some of the most expensive tomatoes by weight that you can find in the world. They're very highly sought after by chefs, and so you know, we really tried our best to give this tomato the best environment possible to grow, and I think we did just that. One of the things that I love about this tomato is just its versatility. We'll slice it up, put it on salads. We'll slice this up and put it on pizza, just fresh little slices, and put it in the oven before we cook it. We'll also turn this, we'll actually roast these tomatoes, take the skin off, and then mill them down, and we'll make our own tomato sauce that way, or pizza sauce. And it's just great on a Neapolitan style pizza. It's also so nice, even just in even on its own, just little tomato slices with a little bit of balsamic vinegar and some mozzarella. Oh my gosh, you cannot beat this. A little bit of fresh basil from the garden. This tomato right here is just, it's an award winner in my opinion. Now the next tomato is the golden currant. Now, not to be confused with the gold rush currant, the golden currant is actually quite a lot larger. The golden currant also comes off much easier with the flower. So we talked about all the time how the stem is kind of cool to have if you're putting them in pints for market, or just, you know, displaying them for a dinner party or something. They have a cool look to them. Also, it actually increases the shelf life if you can keep the stem on, so it's beneficial that way as well, because it prevents ethylene gas from entering the hole where they attach to the stem. This is an amazing producer. It produces just incredible amounts of tomatoes, extremely sweet, slightly tart, slightly acidic, but not too acidic to where it tastes like a red tomato. It's got that real sweet, that sweet overtone to it, kind of citrusy. And ooh, that one was so ripe, it just almost burst right on the vine there. But absolutely beautiful, super consistent producer when it comes to shape and size, and a little splitting, a little cracking. It's kind of got one there and one there, but those are ones you just eat right now. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So anyways, that is the golden currant. Now the next tomato I want to show you guys is called Tigerella. We've tried growing Tigerella numerous times in the past, but it's never really turned out as well as it did this year. Tigerella produces just incredible trusses of tomatoes that are red with kind of yellow streaking, almost like yellow camo. Now this is actually bred from the green zebra tomato that we have growing just over there. The green zebra was the first tomato in the lineage, and then it was crossed with what is presumed to be a large red cherry tomato. Now, it's not 100% sure because it was actually an accidental cross. The farmer that was growing this had large red cherry tomatoes growing next to it and had brandywine tomatoes growing on the other side of it. So it could be brandywine, but because of the shape and size that these are, it's speculated to be the large red cherry tomato, but no one really knows. But when the farmer saved the seeds from the green zebra, he ended up growing them the following year and found there to be a bunch of red tomatoes with golden yellow streaking. So it has all of the aspects of a green zebra, but it has the color from some other type of tomato. No one really knows. So it probably is a large red cherry tomato, but without knowing, it kind of is a mystery, and that's pretty cool because it was unintentional, and that's really rare that that happens. So you can see here, I think this one has the most beautiful color of the ones I harvested. You can just see the golden yellow streaking throughout this tomato. And this tomato has great flavor. It is so sweet. It is more of an early season tomato. It starts ripening up before a lot of the other red tomatoes do. It does not like to come off the stem, so you got to use clippers, otherwise it won't pull off cleanly. But this tomato really produces, like I said, this is one of the more productive tomatoes in the garden right now, and there's still probably about another 50, maybe 40 or 50 tomatoes still on this plant. Whew, it's getting hot out here. All right, now it is time for one of the last tomatoes in the garden that is ripe, and that is the Tessa's Landrace Currant. Now, the most notable thing about the Tessa's Landrace Currant is just the sheer length of these trusses. As you can see, it extends quite literally the entire length of my arm. This is about a 2 to maybe 2¼ foot long truss of flowers. Absolutely beautiful. The fruits on them are incredibly small. In fact, they're known as the sweet pea currant. Now, a lot of people will market them as a sweet pea currant. Do not be confused. These are actually Tessa's Landrace currants. Sweet pea currant is just the nickname that it's given. Both exactly the same type of tomato, so don't get those two confused. But the sweet pea currant is actually one of the smallest tomatoes in the world. This tomato here is usually only about 8 to 10 millimeters in diameter, and this is a large one for its size. Now, the thickness of the skin is a bit off-putting, but the flavor inside of this tomato is what redeems it. It is quite prone to disease. It's not very disease resistant, which is why I have it pruned up so far. It just keeps getting disease. I keep pruning it up. Does not love the heat and humidity here in Michigan, but the flavor keeps me growing it. The flavor just keeps me coming back. And it also is just the most amazing conversation piece because of how long the trusses are. It just creates these cascading, draping trusses of flowers. Absolutely beautiful. And like I said, the flavor, it's unlike any tomato I've ever had. It's so tart. I mean, for a red tomatoes are typically not tart. You guys all tell me to not chew on camera, so I'll try not to do that as often. I know, not appealing. But anyways, so the tartness factor in this is citrusy. It's very, very citrusy. I would say on a scale from like 1 to a lemon, this is maybe more like a 4 or a 5, which in terms of overall tartness is actually pretty tart, given that the usual, the average tomato, your average slicing tomato, your average salad tomato, your typical red tomato is maybe more like a 2 or a 3. So this is like a 4 or a 5 on the tartness scale, and it is just incredible. One of the things also about this is the skin. It has a real nice pop to it because of how thick the skin is, but it's also not unpalatable. It's very thick. I will be completely honest with you. It's very thick, but I'll tell you what, this thing adds flavor. We actually add these little tiny tomatoes. We'll add them to like a pasta salad or like a potato salad, things like that. And when you bite into them, you're getting a whole little pop of flavor that just fills your mouth all at once with tomato flavor. And it's just this little bite-sized snack. So really love this tomato. Again, not very disease resistant, but it keeps you coming back. It just keeps growing. Next year, I probably would put this in a container so it's not risking diseasing the rest of my tomatoes. I probably would grow it on its own for that reason. But as long as we keep it pruned up and as long as we keep any risk or any sign of disease pruned away, it's kind of coexisting just fine in this tomato bed, but it's a beautiful tomato. These are about as big as the tomatoes get normally. That is a small tomato. But like I said, they do get a little bit bigger. There's one that's a little bit bigger. So here's normal size. Here's a bigger one. So that's about twice the size of its normal. But that's why they call it sweet pea currant. It's very, very small. One of the world's smallest tomatoes. So yes, that's Tessa's landrace currant. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I hope you were inspired to grow some different tomatoes. And you can bet that we're going to bring you guys along as we have more tomatoes ripening. I want to do several of these because we have over 50 plants in the garden this year, and we've just touched on just a handful. And also, if I put them all in one video, you guys would be falling asleep by the end. So I don't want that to be the case. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did enjoy, make sure to throw a like up there. Make sure to spread this video around, and also comment and let me know which is your favorite tomato from this bunch that I harvested. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye. That is a good one.